get to our last topic here. So we got obviously Doug Bowser's retiring. That was arguably the biggest news of the week, like official news from Nintendo, is that Doug Bowser's retiring at end of the year. And what's interesting about that aspect, and this is a combo topic, guys. This is just one of it. Is they're bringing in obviously a new president, Devin. Forgot her last name already. Sorry, totally. I didn't write it in my notes. I should have wrote it in the notes. And then Shibata is coming in as CEO. I think it's interesting, of course, just stopping at that point, because Nintendo of America hasn't always had a CEO. It has had one before, but it doesn't always have one. And they didn't really describe, what the individual roles are going to be per se when you look at the actual official announcement, like what the split and the responsibilities is going to be. I obviously think that the guy coming in who used to run Nintendo of Europe is probably just there to help with communications between Devin and Japan, and in any extra training she might possibly need for anything that goes beyond what her experiences. She started with Nintendo's legal team. She's been there for 19 years. She started with Nintendo's legal team and then moved off of the legal team, and got promoted to the role that she's in now, which is like vice president of basically their marketing, right? Like their sales and marketing team. They've changed the name of the title a few times over the years, but it's the same position that Doug Bowser used to have. It's also the same position that Reggie had before they took over as president. So it's kind of like whoever has that position, you're sort of next in line. So if you want to know who's after this person, pay attention to who replaces her. Got a feeling it might be Bill Trinan, but we'll see. I guess Bill Trinan's been slowly moving up the company as well.
Good for Bill.
Yeah, and he. So we'll see. I don't know that he's going to be the one. It's just a gut feeling I have that he might be next in line to come up. And that doesn't guarantee that he's going to be the future president after her, because she's probably going to be president for at least a decade. And Bill will not be that much younger than her at the time that she might retire. So it's one of those things where I'm not so sure that Bill is going to be the next one. But Bill, I don't know about you guys, I get this feeling Bill's like a Nintendo lifer.
Yeah,
he's got a little Miyamoto in him. Like, I'm just gonna be here until I just literally can't work anymore.
I will say this. Obviously, if Bill becomes president of NOA at some point, it's a long time from now. So
yeah.
I don't want to hyper focus on that. However, I do want to add, since this came up, because I hadn't really thought about that until you mentioned it, and that's a really fascinating thing to think about, because I feel like if at some point Bill does become president of NOA, it'll be one step closer to the days of Iwata and Reggie. Because if you guys remember, Bill wasn't as hardcore as Reggie, and maybe not quite as quirky as Iwata, but he still had a little bit of that. He was still a part of some of those funny, weird, awkward
Bill
directs, playing those parts.
Yeah.
So
Reggie
I feel like
morphs in several directs.
Yeah, no, totally. He had I can't remember if it was Tamagotchi Life or one of those games at the time that he had done a direct for that was super off the wall and just awkward. I think Reggie was playing a news anchor or something.
Yeah, there was a Nintendo direct where Reggie fired Bill.
Yeah. So the thought of that as a future prospect is really, really cool. But I am excited to see what Devin brings to the table. I don't know too much about her. And I certainly don't imagine, and I know we've all talked about this on the show many times about how much we love Reggie and Iwata and that kind of era of Nintendo. But dude, those are diamond in the rough. What other company has had someone like that? Not in my lifetime.
I'll say this. We all love Reggie, but if Iwata wasn't president and CEO of Nintendo, I don't Reggie probably still would have became, because he was clearly brought on to probably become eventually the new president anyway. I don't think we'd love Reggie the same if Iwata wasn't president, because the only reason we fell in love with Reggie is because Iwata wanted Nintendo to be a personality forward company.
Totally.
And Reggie's experience in the past was not personality forward. Pizza Hut and all the stuff he did, it was all behind the scenes work. So
it was a dynamic duo.
Like it's really Iwata that made us, get to know Reggie on that level. So I really thank Iwata for bringing a personality forward era. Obviously now Nintendo is back to what they were before Iwata, which is we're not pushing personalities forward. That's not what we do. We push games forward. We push IP forward. We push characters forward. There's a few unique circumstances where they don't do that. One of those is still Zelda. They still push Aonuma front and center often. They won't necessarily use them to reveal, but they use them to reveal Breath of the Wild, but that was still Iwata. When Tears of the Kingdom was revealed at E3, Aonuma wasn't there. He wasn't in the show. It was just a trailer for Tears of the Kingdom. It was the next time they showed that Iwata was there. But Iwata was there presenting the game. If you notice, only select people do that. Kirby Air Riders, right? Kirby Air Riders Direct. It's not just a normal voice. It's presented by Sakurai. So there's a couple instances where Nintendo still kind of pushes a person as a face of something, but they don't do it. They don't do it that often anymore. And I think like as those two get to the point that they might retire at some point or move on to different roles and positions, that might be the last. I don't know if Fujibayashi is going to suddenly be pushed as the face of Zelda in directs and stuff like that. Because he's probably who's going to take over Zelda next as producer. At least that's what it seems like, because he's serving the same role Aonuma did before he became producer. Nintendo seems to have a pretty consistent way in which they promote people, is what I'm trying to say. And we saw this with what's happening again at Nintendo of America. Now, look, I don't know much about Devin. I don't think we're ever really going to know much about her, just like we don't really know that much about Doug Bowser, other than he worked at EA. And so every bad decision people don't like about Nintendo, they blame him for it. Even though most of the decisions came from Japan. Like, the job at Nintendo of America is marketing and PR. That's your primary job. And, if you're served a shit sandwich, only so much you can do with it. That said, one thing that Reggie was good at compared to Doug is we know for a fact, because Reggie has said it out loud and in his book, that he would push Nintendo of Japan hard for things he thought would work better in the US market compared to Japan, such as packaging and Wii Sports. He thought that was a critical move to make Wii work in the US. Iwata didn't want to do it. He had to argue with Iwata to make a point that, trust me, this is the right decision for our market. And it obviously was, right? Nintendo was coming off of, not a great generation. And he's like, I'm telling you, this is the big thing. This is going to make people want to buy Wii. And it worked. Now, Wii sold incredibly well in Japan as well, and it wasn't packed in there. But Reggie wasn't concerned about Japan's market. He's like, no, I'm here representing America, the US, the Americas, it should be packed in. Because he was very critical that Welcome Tour wasn't packed in. Now, I will say this, Reggie. I know that you were critical of that if you ever catch this episode. You were also there when Nintendo Land wasn't packed in. Just want to note, yes, you got Wii Sports packed in, but you didn't fight for Nintendo Land. So I don't want to say that you would have fought for Welcome Tour. You didn't fight for 1-2 Switch with Switch. You got the Wii Sports in. Just saying, there was 3 other systems that launched that didn't get a pack in, that had clear games that should have been pack-ins. That said, I do think that when Doug Bowser took over, obviously they wanted him to represent the shift at Nintendo. They wanted to get away from personality forward. Doug Bowser has been seen, but not really heard from much. Most people just knew him as he's got the same name as the Bowser. That's what people knew. They didn't really know him. So I think Nintendo in that way, this transition with Devin's going to be much of the same. I don't think we're going to hear much. I think she'll have speaking engagements. She'll do the interviews because that's the job. So you hear her do the interviews at big game launches and big system launches and accessory launches. You'll see her be at Nintendo New York or at Nintendo San Francisco when they're doing huge midnight launches. She already was actually doing the midnight launches at Nintendo San Francisco while Doug was doing them at Nintendo New York. I'm sure it'll now be her doing it at San Francisco and then the VP doing the launch out at Nintendo New York. They'll probably split it up that way. Or just send Bill Trinan over there if he's not VP. Because Bill Trinan was with her, notably, at launch of Switch 2 in Nintendo San Francisco. It was her and him together. So that's why I kind of feel like that seems to be the way Nintendo's progressing to the new leadership. As for Shibata and stuff, obviously he also kind of represents the Iwata era because he was very like, we don't know him as well. We literally don't know him that well in the United States because we had Reggie. If you're from Europe, oh, you know him. You know him. He did the same kooky, funny, crazy, out there crap Reggie was doing, but in a very different way. There are clips and directs and so much stuff with him doing. So like he was their Reggie, and he was very beloved at Nintendo of Europe, from what I'm being told from people that grew up during that era. So one, that makes people, it kind of puts someone in charge that understands that side of what Nintendo used to be, but also because he's been at corporate Nintendo now for a while, he also understands what Nintendo is today. So I think that he, more than anyone, is good to have in that CEO position, because if Devin has an idea that she thinks would work in this market that Nintendo of Japan would never consider worldwide, he might be more willing to listen and maybe help her push it at Nintendo. Like if they come up with an idea where they're like, hey, we're seeing some really big discourse with $80 games in the US, right? Like there's huge discourse, and we're seeing the sales numbers. They're not great. This is selling well in Japan. Well, okay, that's great, but it's not selling well here. I could see them being like, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but just as an example, they could go and be like, hey, we know you don't want to do this, but we honestly think if this would help our reputation, if we just drop it $10. Can we just drop it $10? The next one, can we just drop it $10, please? It's just something like that. Something we're recognizing the market you're in and having to customize things for the market. Having Shibata be a go-between, I think, is going to be very valuable. Because Doug Bowser didn't have a go-between. It went from Reggie to him. There was no go-between. So he was making all these trips to Japan and, didn't have the cachet of Reggie. And Reggie had the cachet. Like Reggie was special, guys, not just because like he's special to all of us as fans, but Reggie was really good at his job. How good? He actually became a corporate executive in Japan. He's like the only Nintendo president to ever become a corporate executive in Japan. So he had more power than any other Nintendo president that's ever had. So like, yeah, he didn't have a CEO. He didn't need one. He was on the board. He was literally a board member of Nintendo of Japan. He didn't need a CEO. He could just talk directly. He could literally get on the phone and just talk to Iwata, talk to Furukawa anytime he wanted. He's on the board. Doug didn't really have that power. He had to go through the system. He had to come to Japan. He had to sit in on the meetings, and he had to go up the chain. I'm not saying he never had direct conversations, but he wasn't actively sitting on the board. So he had to go through the chain of command. Devin's the same way, except her chain of command is Shibata, who's on the board. I think this is good. I think this can get messaging from Nintendo of America directly to the top of Nintendo much quicker. So I think this is actually a positive change. Now, I don't know how long Shibata is going to be CEO. He is older. But he's also one of those people that, like, you're from Nintendo of Japan. You're basically, you haven't noticed, they kind of work there until, well, look, they haven't died yet, but,
till they can't.
Till they literally can't work. Yeah. So, like Miyamoto, who thinks he's not going to be a lifer? I honestly think Iwata, rest in peace. If he didn't get colon cancer, he would have just been a lifer running the company, unless they voted him out one day. And I don't know if that would have ever happened. He had very high approval ratings. So like he had like some of the highest in Nintendo history. So even despite the Wii U and 3DS, his approval rating was so high. So there's that aspect of all of this. I'll just stop there because the next stuff is sales data stuff. You guys have anything you want to add to the transition? Any concerns or excitement, or just kind of, we're not really going to notice anything, just business as usual?
Go ahead.
Or any kind words you want to say about Doug Bowser on his way out?
Yeah, so
he's retiring. So
I had shared some tweets right after it happened. Wish Doug the best in his retirement. We didn't hear from Doug a lot And to me, that was completely normal.
Yep.
And I know that for a lot of people from the outside looking in, they a lot of people were pretty judgmental about it. I didn't appreciate that. I didn't care for that because look, you don't know what his job role is. You don't know what he does every day. It's not publicized. That's not how these things work. And look, I worked many years in corporate management. And again, at Loan Depot working as a director. Loan Depot is a very big company. They're the second largest private lender in the United States. The amount of people that I worked with in different countries in different time zones and the times that I had to have meetings, like times when Americans are sleeping and I'm in meetings. That's what he's doing at 60 years old. That's one of the first things I thought of is that you guys act like Doug's young, man. He's 60, bro. Like, you don't want to be doing that.
He would post on Twitter all the time. Nintendo believed a lot in in-person meetings. So he was traveling to Japan a ton.
They do. My stepdad worked for Panasonic and Hitachi for years, like decades. And they're not here, obviously. Like, he went to Japan to have in-person meetings. My mom went with him. I was like, Mom, you got to get me like anything cool Nintendo there, please. I don't know if I'll ever go there. I remember telling her that 20 years ago. But look, man, a job like this comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of stress. And everyone manages stress differently. But look, Nintendo's changed a lot. And I kind of put this in my tweets too, is that this isn't just a video game company anymore. Okay. Those days are long gone. They're doing a lot of things now. It's the home console market, right? It's still mobile games. We were just reminded of that with the new Fire Emblem, which it's been pretty quiet on that front for quite some time, right? It's the theme park.
Mm-hmm.
It's the movies, not just Mario movie. It's everything that's coming after it. Zelda.
Entertainment business now.
Yeah. It's a whole new ball game. And it's nonstop. It's relentless. And I gotta imagine that this is all just very, it's tiring, man. It's a lot. He's put in decades of work. Like, he started, I think it was 1984. Doug started working in the games industry. So he put in like 41 years. That's crazy. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. And so my hat's off to him. I'm happy for him. He's earned his retirement. He's earned his family time. Look, while Doug was president, things went pretty damn good, right? Record numbers. Record everything. Just because he's not out in the spotlight.
The three highest revenue years in Nintendo of America's history happened under Doug.
Just because he's not out in the spotlight and being Reggie. Okay, look, here's one thing that I have to remind everyone is that whoever Nintendo hired, it does not matter. Reggie is the toughest act ever to follow. You're never going to be able to follow a better act, a better show than Reggie Fils-Aimé, dude. He is a legend.
And you can't force that sort of thing. You know? You can't make it artificial. That was Reggie.
That's the thing. That's the beauty of all of this. I'm glad you brought that up, because we have to remind everyone that this was not the plan. Reggie, the way Reggie worked out with Nintendo, This was not the plan when they hired him. The plan was not to make you the face. You know who made Reggie the face of Nintendo? We did. The fans. Yeah. We did. The way we reacted to E3. And when he came on stage and what he said. And he said exactly what needed to be said, because all people did was talk shit about GameCube and talk about how it's a kid's system. And it looks like a Fisher-Price toy. Okay?
Yep.
And the purple lunchbox and all the bullshit. And he came out there and he swore, which was a big deal from Nintendo, even though it's just saying ass, right? But that was a huge deal to go up on stage and do that. It was like edgy for Nintendo, and it kind of gave him that like toughness.
Yeah, wasn't that after the Iwata speech, I think at GDC, where he said, like, on my card, you know, it says I'm a corporate CEO.
Iwata, yeah.
Yeah, like Iwata, but then he's like, you know, but in my mind, you know, I'm a programmer.
Yes.
Because he's a programmer, but in my heart I'm a gamer. And like it was like that happened like the year before, and then Reggie the very next year talked about like, hey, you know, I'm about kicking ass
and playing games.
Yeah, and we're
kicking
about
ass, taking names, and we're about playing games.
Playing games, that's right.
Games or whatever.
And then whipped out a DS and
yeah. So like, and that was really cool because like again, as I said, that was Iwata. Iwata came out literally the year before. I'm going to be a personality forward person. I'm not just a CEO. I loved video games. Literally. Right. Like this is my life. This was my dream.
Yeah.
And then Reggie takes over and they're like, no, Reggie, you're going to be running E3. We need to introduce you to the world. What do you want to do? And it was his idea to do the ass thing. And he got Iwata to say, okay, yeah, just this once. And it worked. Reggie was right. It worked. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
We're gonna remember that moment as gamers forever. A Nintendo president just talked about kicking ass on stage. Like, what?
Yeah, it was very special, man. It sent shockwaves through the industry, and you know, shortly after that, the Capcom games, right? Resident Evil 4 now is coming to the GameCube, and
Capcom 5.
It was a very big deal, but like the point is that Reggie is he's one of a kind. We're not going to see a president like him again for Nintendo, and I'd be willing to bet we won't see any sort of corporate figure like that in any field or business in the rest of our lifetime. I don't know why we would. This was perfect. Iwata and Reggie were perfect together. They were, you know, a dream team.
You were too. You just for Europe.
Yeah.
We didn't see it, but it was Europe. Yep.
And so look, I just want to give that part about Doug in that, guys, no one was ever going to live up to whatever your expectations were of the act to follow Reggie. Okay. So I don't think he ever had a fair shake at that. And at the same time, that's not who he is.
And
what we saw from Reggie, what we saw from Reggie is who he is. This is literally what you saw. That is him, dude. And that's why it was so special.
It wasn't premeditated. It wasn't like we need to find someone who's nuts and
I
willing to act like a clown.
When Reggie was hired, I don't think the plan was for him to be forward personality. That ended up becoming something under Iwata when he took over. And so he wasn't hired to be that way. But if you listen, and this is what I really do appreciate about Kit and Krista, they tell a lot of behind the scenes stories. And they talked about how, like, you know, what Reggie was like when he was doing all this public stuff and the skits, and like that's just what he was like in the office every day.
Yeah, like, it totally feels like a matter of like, hey, this guy's totally equipped for this kind of job. And then it goes from that like, holy shit, like this guy's got a wild personality and it's resonating with people. Let's put him out there more. Apparently
he made a lot of hard decisions.
Like this guy.
Yeah.
And apparently he made a lot of hard decisions and he stood by it and he took on all the responsibility for those decisions. Like he never passed. Like if it didn't work out, he didn't like point fingers.
It was like Stash said, like you can't replicate that. It was a perfect storm. It was like a weird, like these two were like destined to work together. And
Clearly.
it's not something that you can hunt for. You can't be like, hey, we need someone with a really big because you can't manufacture that. It was organic. It was something that just blossomed within Nintendo, and fans loved it. But
we never got to know Doug. We don't know what his personality's like, because Nintendo was a very different company when he became president, and they didn't want that personality forwardness anymore. They wanted it to be very corporate, which is that's understandable. There's a reason businesses run that way.
That's how things usually are.
They want the product to be what you talk about, not the people, and that's fine. That's actually how most businesses are. Nintendo does have at least they still seem to recognize there are certain people that transcend a little bit. Aonuma transcends a little bit, so he's still going to be pushed with Zelda. Miyamoto obviously transcends everything. They'll use him to push everything. So they still recognize that, like, when you do something the rest of the world views as monumental for the industry, we're gonna make sure your face is out there and that you get the recognition, and that like Fujibayashi. This is one thing I talked about before, that I don't know after Aonuma if he's going to be pushed as much. I say that, but the more I think back on it with Tears of the Kingdom, every interview, every public appearance, Aonuma had Fujibayashi right next to him, very clearly pushing him, being like, "Hey, that was him. That was his idea. He was doing like." Nintendo setting up the succession plan. Nintendo being like, no. We want you to start associating Zelda with this guy, not just me. And so I will say Nintendo still has, but the thing is, think about what I'm talking about. Where they still let a personality be forward, it's in the interest of pushing the IP, not the whole company.
Yes, exactly.
So it's for selling things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so good points. And look, enough about Doug. I'm happy for him. Go enjoy your hard-earned retirement, brother. And to Devin Pritchard, look.
Pritchard, that's what it was. Thank you.
I'm excited for Devin. So 2 companies that I worked at, with being Islands Restaurants for 10 years and then Lone Depot. We were both companies very, very big on culture. I got moved around to different restaurant locations to fix them, right? A lot of the times the things that needed to be fixed were culture, literally. And you can't just go fix culture. You have to go live in the culture and then figure out what is wrong with it, what it's missing, and how to fix it. And Lone Depot was the same way when it comes to the culture. It's so important. And that's why I'm bringing this up, because to me, it's really important to have someone that understands it. And given that Devin's been there for nearly 20 years, she's been steeped in Nintendo's culture for a very, very long time. She's seen the highs, seen the lows. To me, it's very important to have an internal hire. And Nintendo typically does this. They hire, they bring in, promote internals. And that's important because they understand how Nintendo operates on levels that we haven't seen as fans. I could probably predict pretty well, because I think it's very similar to some of the things I've done. And I think that's a big reason why I respect them so much with how they operate. But like, you look at her background, Devin's, she has background in sales, marketing, and communications. And I think that gives a very strong foundation to kind of guide Nintendo through the Switch 2 era, with the expansion into the theme parks, movies, mobile. And it's not going to be all smooth sailing, right? This isn't, Switch 1. There's different challenges now, economic, geopolitical. But given her background, I think
she's equipped.
She's very well suited, yes, to like kind of navigate through these rough waters that they could possibly, be coming into. And then I look at Mr. Shibata, and I did my research on him. He joined Nintendo in 1985. Year I was born. Year Nintendo came out. Love it. And I was just looking at his just kind of career history, and I'm like, bro, What a career arc for you. To be with Nintendo for 40 years. Could you imagine being with a company and 40 years later? First off, 40 years later, you're still there. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's insane.
Insane.
Anywhere.
And then 40 years later, they're like, hey, man, you're going to be the new CEO. Like, what? Like, absolutely wild. And it's so cool. But Mr. Shibata seems very outgoing. He seems like he's very much a gamer. And yeah, I think he's there to what you said, Nate, and this is very common. But he's going to be there to help ensure that she is set up for success. Any questions she has, any hurdles, he's been there. He's going to be there to guide and mentor her. And I think that's great. I don't think he's there as a safety net, like if Devin doesn't work out kind of thing.
Like
That's
we're worried that Devin
Nintendo doesn't operate that way. Yeah, they're not going to hire someone they're worried about.
She's been there nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
They're not worried she can't do the job. It's just, maybe she doesn't have as good of a repertoire with the Japanese board. Maybe she doesn't, maybe they just want to make sure that Nintendo of America is properly represented.
Yeah.
Because maybe she's never made the travel to be at the meetings and stuff,
I am confident in Nintendo on several levels that I won't get into because it would be too long. But yeah, I definitely believe in how they hire, from what I know, how they train, and how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things that, as nerdy as they may sound, are always very interesting to me because that's what I worked in. And I take a ton of pride in it. I take a ton of pride in having very low turnover percentage because I want people to be happy. And, when you work for your employees and meaning they don't work for you, but you work for them, that's how you maintain very low turnover percentages. I feel like Nintendo shares a lot of the same things, but they're not publicized. I mean, we already know their turnover percentage in Japan. It's insane.
Yeah, it's
the
like
longevity there is insane.
1.9% or something. Just unheard of.
Look, I'm just saying, for me, I completely I'm on board with this. I think it's going to go great. I don't think Doug got fired. I don't think anything weird happened. I don't think there's any sort of conspiracy. Nintendo knows what they're doing. They have succession plans. They're a very smart company.
And Krista said they knew when they worked there that what was going to happen. Like you just know, Nintendo probably made the decision she would be next a year ago when Doug made any indication that he wanted to leave. But you don't. The thing is, and Doug knows this, as any smart corporate person does, that hey, we're about to launch a new product. We can't have the corporate shakeup before the launch or during the launch.
Never.
Got to be after the launch is secured.
Has to. Yeah. And it's secured. It's done. They're doing the handoff at the end of the year.
Handoff, first holiday. Good. They're doing this is planned. When we hear about it publicly, guys, it wasn't like this was a recent decision.
No, absolutely not.
They've known for a while that this was what was going to be happening.
Yeah. Just like how they know what games are coming out next year and the following year. They have a plan for all of this. Yeah. They have games that are completed right now that we don't know about.
Oh, yeah.
We might. I mean, we're usually pretty good at that, but you know what I'm saying?
And reasoning. Thunderstash thinks he figures out everything.
But I think we know about a lot, but I just mean the
watch this Ocarina of Time remake.
The general public.
Happens. It just never comes out. There's just nothing Ocarina of Time ever happening. Just be like, well, that was one of the big swing and misses of the 2020s.
There's no way they're leaving it on the 3DS. The most complete version. There's absolutely no way.
Nintendo watches this. They just do it just to spite us. Just to be like, you guys have been talking about that for years. It's been one of the core conversations of the whole Nintenbyte podcast. Never happened.
Hey, I want to bring up real quick.
What's
So you
up?
know how we always speak things into existence here on this podcast, and last week we were talking about. I brought it up, EA, and how they're no longer creative, and they used to make games like James Pond, and just went
Yeah.
off on that
Really
huge tangent.
epic music in that game, by the way.
Yeah.
I was listening to some. It's so good.
So what happens a week later?
Oh, here we go. They're being sold. To be
James
fair,
Pond revival.
To go private, and what did they
it's
say?
still private.
What they say in their message?
I don't know. I didn't read it. I don't care.
They said how basically they're looking forward to getting back to their creative ways and doing creative things again, basically not being owned by their shareholders.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, it's fine. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
literally said that, and then a week later it happens.
Yeah. Well, there was rumors
What are the
that
odds
they
of
were gonna
that?
be sold. But then like also EA we're not going to talk too much about it because we don't really know, and this is based on what their estimates, none of this has happened until 2027. There's a long process that goes into these sort of big sales, legal processes.
We
and all
saw
that
it, man, with Activision.
Like it literally could even get blocked. Like the
Most
government
drawn out ever.
and the government and the courts could end up blocking it too. So we don't, nothing's final until it's final. But yeah, they said all the right things that people want to hear, but we always hear it in these cases. Just like Microsoft said all the right things people wanted to hear about buying Activision Blizzard, and here we are, and almost none of those things have happened yet. So it's one of those. I mean, to be fair, they didn't take Call of Duty private. They did say they would keep it going. So and now they're going full third party, which I mean, cool. That said, let's get to the other parts of this.
Wait, real quick. I want to touch a little bit on this because I got to chime in a little bit with you guys are saying, but I just wanted to add same sentiment. Like I think Doug Bowser got a bad rap. I think it was undeserved, and I think a lot of people, like you guys have already said, just don't know how these things work and what the job really entails. He seems like a really nice dude, and he obviously was good at what he does, or else he would have never been put in that position. Nintendo's not stupid, No. They put someone who is well equipped to be there, and I wish Doug the best of luck on his retirement. I hope he enjoys the time off and lives it up. Devin, I have full faith that she's going to be the right person for the job. I do think I don't necessarily know if I agree that it's going to be like nothing's going to change. It's going to be business as usual, because I'm not saying there'll be dramatic changes, but this is someone who's going to bring their own flavor and their own style. I'm not talking like Reggie, like a personality, but we might see a shift in the next, couple years in the way that Nintendo markets and kind of presents. Yes, the messaging. There could be a major shift.
I think it needs to. I think they actually need to do some changes there.
Absolutely. So I think there is a chance that we may see changes, just not in the way that maybe some people hope, as in going back to the Reggie Iwata days where she's like a personality. And I wouldn't expect anything like that. Yeah, it's got to come from the top. That's got to be a decision from Furukawa to be like, we need to bring some flavor back to the way we do our directs. And
they're doing record numbers. They don't. He's not going to do any of that.
Yeah. I agree. But I wish her the best of luck. I think she's well equipped, and it's exciting. Doug's handled a bulk of Switch.
This is only the fourth president of Nintendo of America I can remember in my lifetime. There was probably one that I don't remember, but what I find interesting as well, and I'll just end with this on this conversation, is also part of doing the job that Doug is, all these people that are happy he's leaving and excited and blaming him. That's also kind of part of the job. When you're the guy at the top, you get all the blame and almost none of the credit. That's how it goes. He takes all the shots, so Nintendo of Japan and Furukawa don't have to. That's kind of how it goes. So, it's funny. You hear about all of the complaints about Nintendo, and everyone just yells at Bowser when a lot of the decisions probably weren't even his. but that's the job. You take the good and the bad. Wish you luck in your retirement, man. And Devin, I'm sure you're going to do a good job. By the way, anyone from Nintendo of America watching, if you want to convince Devin to come on for an interview, that would be fantastic. We'd love to interview her on the show. Introduce her
awesome
to the Nintendo audience. That'd be sweet. We'll keep it super professional. No worry. No beers, no drinks, no swearing. We'll keep it nice and professional. You can pre-approve our questions. I know that's a big thing corporations like to do, pre-approve the questions. But yeah, we'd love to have you on, and just if that's something you're interested in. Probably not. No, the way Nintendo works, probably not. But I'm just throwing it out there. If the right people want to send this up the chain, it would be appreciated, even if the answer is no. All right, moving on.
We need to get Kit and Krista on here.
Yeah, they've been on the Nintendo Prime podcast a couple times. I've been trying to get them on. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be working. I think I need to send the Stash Man after him.
Krista mailed this to me.
I know.
We're on an email chain with the Ruffy creator.
I know. I have direct contact with them as well. I've met them in person. I don't know.
Stash Man, work your magic. I would love to pick their brain and just talk Nintendo stories from the time that would be.
When I listen to their show and they talk about Nintendo and like how things work, I tell Michaela this all the time, but I'm constantly reminded of my experience working with Lone Depot in corporate.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm just like, dude, I feel like we'd get along so well.
Yeah.
Like we had shared experiences without knowing it. Cause I hear them talk about it. I'm like, they could literally be talking about what I've done. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So go ahead and reach out, man. See what happens.
All right.
What's the worst that happens? Nothing? All right, cool. Whatever.
Yeah. It'd just be like when I would send out emails to get game review codes.
Yeah. Okay. If you don't respond or say no, whatever. It's not
take it personal.
Yeah. And they don't take it. Like I said, they still talk to me. It just whenever I ask about coming on the show, it's always crickets. I'm like, that's all right. Fine. I could take hints. Maybe I'm not the right person to ask you. Maybe you think this is still the Nintendo Prime podcast. Maybe you didn't enjoy your experience there. Maybe the Jake Randall getting bricked up was a little too much. I understand. That's not this show, though. I want to be very clear.
Was he doing that when they were on?
Well, we get wild like dad joke kind of wild. You're not getting bricked up all the time.
Here's the thing: is that like, if we're gonna have people like that on the show, like I am more than happy to keep.
Oh yeah, we tone things down.
You know what I mean? That is not an issue at all.
Example,
there's no way with
B's coming
like that.
On the 22nd,
it's gonna be professional,
along with some Bro Nation and some others. And we're not going to like sit here and start making sex jokes and all. Like no, there are certain, like we know when we have the right guests on that we can go to certain places. Like when Andres Restart is on, we can go to certain places, but we can't do that with every guest, and we know that. This is just part of the show, is recognizing, hey, we have game developers on like Royalty Free for All. We got to have a certain level of professionalism with how we're talking to them and how we're bringing them into topics. Same thing with Celia B. Same thing if we had anyone from Nintendo of America on, or Kit and Krista. But there is also times when we have other people on that are just like buddies, and we can go to different places with that. And I think that's what makes our show unique, is our ability to understand that. And so we can kind of be chill with everyone. And look, that's probably why Nintendo of America likes our podcast, not just because we're mostly positive, but also because we know when to be professional, and we know when we can let loose a little bit, and it's okay. That's what makes the show fun. That said, there's not the only thing happening with Nintendo. In fact, roughly a month from now, we're about to hear some big news. We have Nintendo's next financial meeting, and friend of the channel, my channel anyways, all of our channels, to be fair, makes some shorts that I post on mine. Paul Gale Network always seems to have the inside track on Nintendo sales data. And he has been told, and he'll never say by who, that Nintendo sold 8.6 million Switch 2s through August 25th and has likely already sold over 9 million by the end of September 30th, yesterday.
But Nate, sales are way down for Switch 2, and Nintendo stock is plummeting.
Yeah, sales are terrible. They're no longer the fastest selling system. By the way, if these numbers are all correct, which he's proven time and time again they are, it is still the fastest selling system of all time. That being said, that means it sold over 3 million units this fiscal quarter in the dog days of summer, where they only had DK Bonanza as a major game to push sales. That's incredible. All systems fall off from launch. Happens all the time. Sometimes it's just due to supply constraints. Sometimes it's just due to you have launch, and then it falls off till the next major event happens, holidays or whatever. If they're at these numbers, 9 million minimum or more, 9.2, 9.6, whatever it is, not only are they still on a record-setting pace, that's before holiday season began, when a majority of sales happen. Like half of the sales every year happens like during the holidays. Oh, to say Nintendo would be on pace to hit their 15 million mark, I think is almost an understatement if these numbers are true. I think Nintendo's going to hit more than 15 million if these numbers are true, which is insane to think about. But that's my opinion, of course, because that's me assuming that I think they're going to sell at least 6 million this holiday. That's my prediction. Roughly 6 million units, October, November, December. Could be wrong. Could be less. Could be more. As I said, Switch had 7.2, but they also had Mario Odyssey, which I think is probably a bigger mover because it was exclusive, and also 3D Mario than anything coming out this holiday. But I think the combination of 5 games, I think, is going to end up collectively being able to get us a couple bundles, get us to 6 million this holiday, which would then put them at 15 million coming out of the holidays, which means they're already ahead of their projections. So,
and people shouldn't underestimate the power of that Pokemon bundle for
yeah,
Switch
that Pokemon
2.
bundle.
Like,
Parents,
do not,
people,
especially knowing performance issues on the previous hardware.
oh
like,
yeah,
you know that the core Pokemon fan base is going to want to experience the newest,
the
the
best
latest and greatest
running version.
Absolutely.
Like, they're gonna want a smooth experience, and all the demo footage is out there from Switch 2. Everyone talking about how smooth it is. We all played it. It's super smooth. Whether you think the graphics are good or not is irrelevant when it comes to the fact that we're just hoping for a game that performs well, like from a frame rate perspective and not having glitches. So far, so good. What we're seeing on the Switch 2 version. No one can vouch for Switch 1. That hasn't even been demoed. I'm a little scared for that version. But ironically, if that version isn't very good and has problems, it kind of just helps Switch 2. Like, it kind of just pushes people over to Switch 2 even quicker. So, I don't want to say they're intentionally trying to make the Switch 1 version not good. But I can tell you this, the Switch 1 version ain't no silky 60 FPS, not based off after what we've seen the last 2 games. It ain't no silky 60 FPS, which is exactly what it is on Switch 2. Rock solid, no dip, 60 FPS. That being said, that's what I think is going to happen, of course. Obviously, we know about the big 5 games. So the question, obviously, is, do you guys agree with this? Do you think these sales numbers are impressive, or is this what you expected? And do you think Switch 2 is on pace to hit its projections for the year, or go even higher? What do you guys think? Start with Bird. I think you're muted.
Sorry, it's because I was snacking.
Me.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wait a second. Is this stash down there? In the mouth.
Oh my god. No, well, first off, yes, I do think this is impressive. That being said, I fully expected Switch 2 to have a very strong first year. You know, I think we way back on the show we talked about early numbers, and I think we all kind of predicted high numbers, which has been proven to be true. I think what's especially impressive about this is that there isn't what I feel like a lot of people imagine to be the killer app, your big mainline 3D Mario, your big mainline 3D Zelda. But I think the thing that's most surprising about it, and not surprising for me, but just interesting, all the negativity, all the talk about how crap the Switch 2 is, how it's overpriced, how the games are too expensive, how it's not powerful enough, things don't look as good. It's like, this just speaks volumes to how, like, it's just a small few online just screaming very loudly. That's not the perspective of the masses. It's just not. And the majority of people who are buying Switch 2 and playing games like Bonanza or Mario Kart World are loving it. Whether it's from like the hardware improvements to the visuals and the way the games perform, people are loving it. So
Yeah,
it's not surprising.
Over the screen. Remember, like
What's that?
Remember all the bitching over the screen?
Yeah,
oh my god,
the screen looks
Ghost is
great.
so much worse. Okay, that was a hot story for like 3 days. Hasn't been
Yeah,
talked about.
And again, I know you mentioned, if I remember correctly, you mentioned that it's something that like only certain eyes can see. Like, full transparency, I've never seen ghosting. Like, I can't see it. So if it is there, I'm not saying that's not a thing. It sounds like it legitimately is a thing, but I have not seen it and I can't see it. And no one that I know personally, and I know a lot of people who own Switch 2, I know a lot of people who own it as a secondary console who are primary PlayStation users, and none of them have told me, oh, there's a ghosting on the screen. I don't like the ghosting. Everyone I know loves the console and is having a great time. So I'm not surprised by the numbers. I think it's just surprising combined with a lot of the backlash that you hear online, and a lot of those like, oh, the Switch sales are dipping. By what metrics? Like, people are obviously making empty statements that they can't even back up. But I fully expect this system to continue to sell well. And listen, at the end of the day, games are what makes and breaks a generation. Period. It's not power. It's games. And so Switch 2 hasn't even been out 6 months yet and has already had a number of fantastic games with a vast number still to come this year. We're in the early stages. The best is yet to come. And we've already got Fire Emblem on the horizon. Just this year, Kirby Air Riders, Metroid Prime. We've got the new Pokemon. We're eating good right now. Guys, we just watched Resident Evil running on Switch 2 and looking fantastic.
Hell yeah.
And it comes early next year. We're
waiting. Getting 3 games.
Yeah.
On the same day.
But we're not waiting a year later or a year and a half later to get the newest, the latest and greatest. We're getting it right away. So I don't see things slowing down unless for whatever reason next year there's just a massive drought of games and Nintendo's got nothing and third parties got nothing. I don't see this slowing down. So I don't know an exact number what I predict, but I will say this. I can see it at the very, very least. Whatever the numbers that come out in this sales report, I could fully see it doubling. I'll say that. I could see those numbers doubling. So if it's 8 million or 8.5, I could see that doubling throughout the remainder of the year, including the holiday.
Okay.
Stash.
Yeah, so I did see Paul's numbers, and I do believe them. Paul is very good at his numbers. He's very good at what he does. He's a very smart guy. I don't doubt his numbers at all. So I'm completely there with Paul. As far as sales goes, so Paul's saying that by the end of last month, so we're talking by the end of August
25th, as of August 25th.
Okay. So Paul is saying then 3 million per month since launch. June, July, August.
It was like 2.82 or 2.83 between July and August.
So then we have September, October, November, December, the four biggest months of the year. A Pokemon bundle, a game to cater to Legend of Zelda fans, Hyrule Warriors, a Kirby, a Metroid, tons of great third-party stuff. Oh, also Super Mario Galaxy 1+2. That's going to do gangbusters. People shouldn't sleep on that because a lot of kids, they weren't even born yet when those came out. Those are going to be hot tickets. And then this is launch year. Okay, so I know the goal is 15 million, right? And we talked about this again a long time ago. When we did our original predictions, I thought it was going to exceed it. I was leaning towards 20 million. I mean, if we've done about 3 per month, we're at 9, and we have September, October, November, December. And we continue at the same pace you're at right now, meaning you're not going to get any boost from the holidays. Same pace.
Per average, guys. Average per month. Yeah.
So if you get no boost at all from all these games I just mentioned, no one buys any Christmas presents, we're at 18 million, roughly. If you get a boost, which you're going to be over 20 million. So I think it's very safe to say that, yes, you're going to get 15 million. It's going to be more than that.
Not sure if I like the math there, but because yeah, it's an average of 3 mil a month. Obviously, if we look at it, overall, but like, got to remember that like 6 million of that was month 1. So like it's not selling 3 mil per month. It's just an average. So as an example, like I think September was probably the worst selling month for the platform. Might have sold less than 1 million units, but then the holidays come, which will be a boost. And that can bring the average back to 3 mil or per month or more. We don't know. Obviously, as I said, the data for Switch 1 was 7.2 million first holiday. We don't know what's going to happen here. We know the very first full fiscal year of Switch 1, they sold 15.02 million units. I think they will exceed that here to have the biggest first full fiscal year launch in console history. And remain the fastest selling through this fiscal year. Now, I don't know if it's going to after this fiscal year. I have no idea. That's future projections. Them being really successful year 1 doesn't mean they're going to be really successful year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like we assume, but we don't know. Okay. There's a lot of things that could happen. Example, one thing that could really hurt them. They raise the price. They decide we pushed it through holidays. We're losing money per unit. We got to jump the price $50 to $100. It's going to hurt. Yeah. I think that's going to affect sales. I think that's going to lower what you're going to sell in year 2. I do not think you will sell as many units at $550 as you do at $450 with $500 bundles. So yeah, I think that can be a problem. Because now you're talking about $550 and $600 bundles. Yeah, I think that would hurt sales. So like there's just too many unknowns about the future to really project beyond a year. And I like that Nintendo always focuses on just the current fiscal year. Obviously, they have plans for and ideas of what they want to sell. So I don't know that this is going to be a 100 million seller. I think Switch 2 will be a 100 million seller, but I don't know. What I will say is for right now, I do think Paul Gale's right on his numbers because he's been proven right too many times in the past. And remember, 9 million is like the floor for what they sold through September. It's probably more 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, somewhere in there. Keeping the pace of being the fastest selling system of all time. And I think what's making people like when I hear people worried about the sales, I think a lot of it comes from Nintendo doing something we're not accustomed to. Okay. So it's been pretty easy to buy a Switch 2 for a while. Months now. You've been able to walk into the store and buy one. You've been able to go online and readily buy one. If you want a Switch 2, easy to get, at least in the US. Most European countries are the same. Japan's a little different. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, kind of fluctuates. There are still occasionally some of those lotteries going on, but they're not that frequent anymore. And so it kind of depends on the week. Sometimes it's easy to get one, sometimes it's not. But the point is that we've never seen this before with a system selling well that you could just go and buy. You just walk in and buy one. Like that's usually not the case, right? For the big metric to tell a system is selling well is that you can't, right? It's sold out. FOMO. Can't get one. But I want to note something here that doesn't get talked about when people talk about that point. Outside of the fact that Furukawa literally said last year this was the plan. I didn't believe he was going to do it. I didn't believe. I remember right on the podcast, I said, he's not going to do that. He's just talking a big talk. They're not going to do that. They're not going to flood the market because that's so risky. That's so risky. If it floods, discount bins, you know?
Listen, I want to add one more thing to that because I love that you're making this point. I was gonna make the same point about like people measuring it by the inventory that's available at stores. But keep in mind, we had rumors before Switch 2 was officially announced that Switch 2's reveal was being delayed due to Nintendo wanting to make sure, one of the core reasons was wanting to make sure that they had enough inventory in place to make sure that everyone who wanted a Switch 2 would get one. And that was later reinforced by Nintendo themselves. So this is something that predates Switch 2's reveal that Nintendo was planning this.
Yeah.
Rumors were already swirling about it.
It's well before January. Yep.
And you can't use like, oh, there's inventory in stores as a metric without, first off, you shouldn't be making any argument about how the Switch is selling without data, without any sort of data.
Yeah.
But
the only metric, okay, that I think this is a fair argument, and I'll say this: well, it's only the fastest selling because the other systems were sold out. Sure, that's fair. Fair. How well would a PS5 sold throughout 2021 if it wasn't supply constrained? You're right. That's a fair question. It's super fair. And guess what? That's on Sony because they didn't plan ahead like Nintendo did to have enough units to actually sell through. I know COVID was a big deal. They could have delayed it. No one's saying they had to launch it. It's not like their launch lineup was fantastic. They could have waited. They could have pushed it back a year, had way more stock, and gotten through it. So I even see someone say it's not on Sony. It's not on Sony. It's on COVID. Look. COVID was happening to everyone. Right? Nintendo ran out of Switches, even Switch Lites in 2020. They sold out. Guess how many units Nintendo sold that fiscal year? 28 million. Almost all of those units were produced that fiscal year. Sony couldn't produce that many units. Why? They never secured enough manufacturing for it because they didn't plan for it. Now, you can't plan for COVID. I get that. Nintendo didn't either. Nintendo just happened to already have the lines that they could ramp up a little bit extra. But the point is that it's not just PlayStation 5. What about PlayStation 4? Same thing happened then. It was sold out. Same thing with PlayStation 3, although PlayStation 3 didn't stay sold out because it kind of didn't have a good launch. But the point is like all the best-selling systems, the fastest selling before Switch 2, were supply constrained. All of them. Every single one. So, yes, Switch 2 is probably only the fastest selling because it's the only one that's not supply constrained. Now, let me bring this back. Here's the thing. That's a business strategy. Supply constraints are often intentional. Why? FOMO. Things being sold out create demand. Nintendo's actually famous for this. Some interviews suggested Nintendo intentionally weren't making enough Wiis back in the day to keep it sold out. Why? Creates demand. Everyone wants a thing they can't get. It's artificial scarcity. It is absolutely a business strategy that has been employed by many companies. Artificial scarcity creates demand. And sometimes it's not even by them. Sometimes they actually made the units. You know who creates the scarcity? The retailers. They don't put them all out on the shelf. They let it sell out on the shelf. They'll restock it in a couple days. Why? Creates a scarcity. Keeps you coming back. You keep coming back to the store to buy the 5 units they put out in a couple days. They might have been in the back the whole time. But they want you coming back to the store. Because the more times you come to the store, the more times you're going to buy other stuff. This is absolutely a business strategy. This is actually well known. And I know
traffic.
And
it's
I
been
know
well
people
known for decades.
talk about it's illegal to create artificial scarcity, right? That's what Kong Dog said in the chat. It doesn't matter. Lots of things are illegal. Guess what? Companies do it anyways. Prove it in the court of law. You're not going to be able to prove it. Yep. You literally won't be able to prove it. If Nintendo is holding units in China in a warehouse that they're refusing to send to the US, China's laws are not the US laws. You can't prove it. That's what these companies do. A lot of them do it. So here's the thing. Nintendo used to get yelled at a lot for this artificial scarcity. Because out of nowhere, what would happen is after like 6 months, suddenly Nintendo floods the shelves and they have all these units. Those units didn't just come out of thin air. They had them manufactured before then. They just decided now we're gonna come to the market. Now we're gonna make it easier to buy. Whether it's due to the second holiday season they hit or whatever, right? They decide now's when we're gonna bring all the units out. Yeah, it does take time to ramp up manufacturing. That is a fact. But you don't just magically have 6 million units ready 1 week. But, 2 months ago, you had nothing. That's just not how that works. So they've been accused of this in the past. Obviously never been statistically proven or factually proven because companies are too good. You're not going to catch them, especially companies that are worldwide. That said, now Nintendo's doing the opposite. They decided we're going to delay our platform so we can have the most units anyone's ever had. And we're not going to hold back. We're going to keep sending them. As long as retailers keep ordering, we're going to keep fulfilling the orders. We're going to keep sending. Because got to remember, yes, they make an initial batch. All the units they make are based on orders from retail. Okay. The units you see on the shelf, Nintendo already made that money. But they need those units to sell. So the retailer orders the next batch and the next batch and the next batch. And the retailers are still ordering those batches. They're still happening. Why? Well, all these units are on the shelf. They're not selling. What do you mean they're not selling? We're about to find out it's sold north of 9 million, which means in the last fiscal quarter, it sold over 3 million units. But if it's not selling, then how the hell did they move over 3 million units the last 3 months? Obviously, it's selling. Just because you see units on the shelf doesn't mean those are the same units from 4 days ago. Restocks, they're a thing. Companies keeping stock in the back, not putting it all out on the shelf. It's a thing. I know this. I used to work at Kmart back when that was a thing. I was there for the Xbox 360 launch. We had 50 units of the Xbox 360. You know how many we had out on the store shelf? 5. We weren't allowed to put more on the shelf till all 5 sold. Now, is that artificial scarcity? No, we're not refusing to sell the units. We're just not going to make people aware we have them until the 5 on the shelf are gone. Retail does this all the time. It's not illegal, by the way, because they're not refusing. Like if it's sold out and a customer asks you if you have some, you have to say yes. And you have to sell it to them. But customers will assume you're sold out when they don't see it on the shelf. This is a very common strategy. And this happened back at Kmart. I know what happened at Walmart because I worked there for a little bit as well. At my local Walmart, there was something we did with consoles as well. Did it with not just consoles. We actually did it with quite a few products. You'd be surprised how many products they still have in the back when the shelf is empty. All you got to do is ask. It's not against the law. There's not a law that says they have to keep the shelf stocked. They just can't lie to you if you ask if they have some in the back. You'll see this in electronics all the time. You'll ask, hey, do you have any in the back? They go to the back and walk right back up with one. But yeah, they do. It's just not on the shelf right now. So this is like a strategy that get used all the time. So I bring this up from my own experience because the bottom line is, yes, we do not know that Switch 2 would be the fastest selling console ever if PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, those two in particular, had enough stock that you could readily walk in after like a week and buy a system. You're right. It could have sold faster, especially during COVID. If they somehow were able to produce like 50 million in year one, they might have sold all 50 million. I have no idea. But they didn't. And setting aside COVID, PlayStation 4 didn't have the same excuse. It just didn't. Didn't have the same excuse. They had their own projections, and either their projections were way off, or they intentionally didn't want to produce too many, which is very, very common. Like we talk about artificial scarcity. Artificial scarcity doesn't have to literally be you have units sitting in a warehouse. It could be, and I'll actually tell you this, Nintendo said this out loud. Then when Nintendo gave the 15 million projection for this fiscal year, they were asked, well, what if demand's higher than that? Because analysts were all projecting 18, 20, 25 million sales, right? What did Furukawa say? He said out loud, we have the ability to ramp up production to 20 mil. Meaning, it's not artificial scarcity. It's just choosing to not make more. That's not illegal to choose to not make more. So Nintendo was planning to make 15 million. I think they've ramped up. They've issued multiple apologies, one in the United States, 2 in Japan, for failing to meet demand. And the one in Japan, the most recent one, was just like 2 months ago, not launch, 2 months ago. Meaning they probably have ramped up. They've probably realized we're going to go over 15. It's happening. We got to ramp up. Maybe they're ramping to the full 20. Maybe they somehow can ramp even higher. I don't know, because they're still making Switch 1s. So that takes up some of the lines. So maybe they can't go higher than 20 right now, but maybe they can in year 2. But the point I'm kind of making here is that all of this is really irrelevant. Nintendo made a choice that no other company's ever made, and that is that we're going to overstock the shelves. I shouldn't say no other company. There's been companies that have done this, and this is why companies don't do it. There's been companies that just think back about some of the most highly failed products on the market ever that were super hyped going in. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of failed products that have put companies out of business. They had millions and millions and millions ready to go. The demand sounded, everything was sounding good. All the reviews were great, and then nobody bought it. It's a risk when you put all those units up. What if nobody bought Switch 2? If no one was buying Switch 2, it would already be discounted right now. The way it's being talked about how easy it is to get a Switch 2 and how the sales are tanking, if that was true, it would be in discount bins today. Because retailers wouldn't be ordering anymore, and they would be saying, we got to get these fucking things out of our store because no one wants them. They would be discounted heavily, and they would stop ordering more of them, and it would be a dead product. But that's not what's happening. They're ordering more. So let this sink in. Yeah, we don't know what the potential sales of PS5 and PS4 could have been if they did what Nintendo's doing, or even if they had the ability to do it. If you want to argue because of COVID, fine. They didn't have the ability, but if they did, we don't know what they would have sold. What we do know is it doesn't matter if we use the moniker fastest selling system of all time. What matters is Nintendo said they're selling 15 million this fiscal year. That's what they told investors. That's what they told players, what they told everyone. And they are clearly on pace to sell at least 15 million. At least. They are on pace to meet or exceed their projections. That is factually a good thing. There's no negative spin to sales for a company to meet or exceed their projections. The only negative spin you could throw out there is bullshit. It's conjecture. It's anecdotal with no facts. Outside of, oh, it's on a shelf, so no one's buying it. All right. Unless you work at the store and you went and you put a little sticker on every single one in there, and you came back a week later and all those same boxes with your sticker were there, fine. You could tell me no one bought any that week. That's not what's happening. In fact, I'll go a step further. I know a few people that work in, I don't want to say corporate. It's below corporate at Walmart and Target and Best Buy, but it's kind of regional, like multiple stores under their wing. They've gone into the systems. These are stores that exist in Wisconsin and Minnesota. I can't talk about anywhere else. I can only talk about what I have access to from my friends. Dude, they're selling. They're selling every week. Not selling out, but they're selling. They're moving units. Like, they're very pleased with how quickly they're moving off shelves, and we're not even to holiday. Like, they have more shipments and more shipments coming in. Why? It's selling. And now they want to ramp up for holidays because they're estimating a really, really huge amount selling during holidays. They're estimating this is going to be the number one selling electronic device on Black Friday. And it's not even going to be on sale. It's huge. So obviously those are estimates, but they're based on current numbers and what it's selling right now before the big games all come out. So yeah, I think that this is all very good. And all of it's going to be backed up by Nintendo the first week of November. So you don't just have to rely on Paul Gale. And then all of it's going to be backed up again by Nintendo the first week of February when they give the holiday numbers. And they up their projections from 15 million to whatever they think. Maybe they even up their projections this next fiscal meeting, but I think for sure post holidays, we're going to see them increase projections past 15. How far past? I don't know. That'll depend on how big holiday was. Was holiday 8 million? Was it 7 million? Was it 5? Was it 6? That'll all depend on how much they adjust their numbers for the year. But we're going to see an adjustment in February. And we got to remember, it's not done selling. February, there's going to be a direct. We just talked about Zelda 40th anniversary. There's going to be Pokemon. Gen 10's probably getting announced. That's going to get people hyped that want to buy Switch 2s. Oh, on top of that, there's games coming out. We talked about after that direct. Remember, Stash, when we were reacting to the direct, how packed spring is?
Yeah.
There's so many games coming out. It's insane.
It's insane.
Resident Evil 9 is literally Requiem's day one on Switch 2. It looks good. Yeah. And there's Nintendo games coming.
And 7 and 8.
There's Yoshi, right? We have obviously we have Mario Tennis. And like we talk about how, you know, Galaxy 1 and 2 get in a push. When's the movie again?
April.
That's before the end of the fiscal year.
6th.
Wait, no. That's the month after. Wait.
6 days after.
Yeah, that's 6 days after. 6 days after. So never mind. That might actually help boost sales to begin the next fiscal year. To be clear, that might boost it then, because I think that's going to also boost demand for Mario. Like if there's any sort of Mario Tennis reference in there, that'll boost sales for Fever and stuff like that as well. So you know them. They're going to put all the references in there. They're going to put a Mario Kart World reference in, guys. I'm guaranteeing it. I'm not gonna put a fucking stamp in the ground. There's a Mario Kart World reference in the movie. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the UFO. You know, something. There's going to be some sort of Mario Kart World reference. Maybe it's the cow. You know, that went all memed before the game came out. It'll be something that's very clearly, if you know, that's Mario Kart World. It's going to happen. Yeah. They had Mario Kart reference in the last movie, Rainbow Road and everything. They're going to do it again. They're going to reference all the games. Anything they want to sell, it's going to be referenced. Galaxy, obviously, directly referenced. Rosalina, you think those amiibos are doing sales now? Just wait. just wait. Just wait till the movie comes out. That Rosalina amiibo, people are going to think $40, $50. That's a steal.
Yeah.
They're going to think it's a steal when that movie comes out. Everyone's going to want that amiibo.
They are.
So,
are you going to get one?
Right now, no. I do like that they're a little bigger. It kind of makes the price point feel more like you can stomach it a bit more because they're not the same. Like they're actually a little bigger. But it's still, I don't know, man. It's a little steep for me. It's still steep. Like the prices on Amiibo jumped up real quick, real fast. And I know not all of it's Nintendo's fault. There's tariffs and other things happening. But yeah, I'll put it this way. If I get a real nice tax return, which I'm a YouTuber, what's a tax return? But if I do, if I budgeted correctly, paid the right amount of taxes or paid too much, and I get a nice tax return, all right, I'll treat myself to the Amiibo.
I miss when they were $12.99.
I know, 15 at the most. How much was the giant Yarn Yoshi one? Wasn't that one like $40?
I have it.
I don't know.
Yeah, how much? Because that one felt like okay. You understand why that one's 40. It's like this big. How big was that? Yarn Yoshi big Amiibo launch price. I'm trying to remember. I feel like it was a $40 Amiibo. Yeah.
Still
yeah. The Mega Yarn Yoshi Amiibo.
It was still perfectly intact.
Yeah, it was $40. So that's what we used to get for $40.
Dude, you have so much discipline, Stash, because the number of times I've told myself I'm not going to open like a certain collector's item, and then I just like have to, like I just have to touch it. I'm like, I have to experience it, like the item.
Yeah,
like when
I get it, stuff.
Like when I got the Fire Emblem collector's edition that comes with like that crystal clear NES cartridge.
Yeah, I have it up.
Have you opened it?
The YouTube 100K? No.
Yeah, see, I held off for like a month.
Yeah.
And then the thought of not holding the crystal cartridge and like seeing it in person really bothered me. And I like had to. And then I was sad that I opened it. But at the same time, beautiful. Dude, it is beautiful. It has a stand too. I put it back in the box. I've never like displayed it. I didn't want it to collect dust or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's definitely something that like I've thought about, like, oh man, I should bust it out and just look at it. You know, like the One Ring, like the My Precious type feeling. Yeah.
Totally is. Did you guys get any of those amiibo that were on sale at GameStop last week? They had like 20, 25, 30 amiibos.
Nope.
On sale for $5.99.
Oh wow.
Cool.
That's a steal.
$5.99. Stupid. Yeah.
Make it rain amiibo. I'm that's not money, guys. I'm not making it rain money. I'm making it rain amiibo at that price.
Like I got I got a bunch, but this one I didn't realize this glows in the dark.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It glows in the dark. Yep. Used to have that one.
I have like 6 Home Depot boxes packed full of sealed amiibos.
You guys know the standard Home Depot box size, right?
It's
been standardized for a while.
It's that medium box size, and I don't know I haven't looked in there in years. I mean, I'm talking. Obviously, I was collecting them during the Wii U era.
Yeah, same here.
So I don't even remember what's in there.
I was trying to catch them all. Me and my buddy were trying to catch them all when Smash came out, and they were like doing the whole line. And then, dude, I was like really into it. I was like racing to the stores to get all of them.
Same.
And then, but I dropped off. I don't know when I dropping
like 3 to 4 for every game that came out, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
it's getting a little, even at $12 a pop, it's getting a little much to try to keep up. And then some were like Japanese only, so then you had to import them, and you're like, okay, like, at some point. By the way, I'm sure there's people out there that have the complete collection, and that's awesome. I'm really happy for you. I don't. To be fair, I did have a lot. But I went through financial strife in 2019 and had to sell like all my gaming stuff. So